Welcome to the Inner Princess Hole-in-One guide for Around the World in 80 Days Easy. This course is probably the easiest to shoot all the holes in one, so I would urge you to give it a try if you haven't tried this on other courses already. As we go through each of the 18 holes, I'll talk you through the route and how to play the shot, and also whether or not it's really worth going for. If you find this helpful, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave me a comment if you've got anything to say. Anyway, we start with hole number 1. So the first hole on the course took around about a minute of shots to get the hole in one. I found the best route for me was to play off the wall to the right hand side. That gives you a good angle into these barrier poles. You'll need to bounce off 2 of them to get into the hole, and weight is quite important. But in terms of your contact point, you are looking for the 6th notch on the right here. So there's your marker point, and providing your weight is pretty much dead weight into the hole, you should be fine. Onto the second hole. After working out the route I was going to take, it took only 20 seconds to hit this one. I found that 3 bounces off the sides gave me a really good angle to come back off the slight ramp and into the hole. Any fewer than that and you're leaving the angle really tight to go past that little obstacle. So you're aiming really for the first notch on the left hand side, or right hand side if you prefer, it's symmetrical. And providing the weight isn't too strong and you really don't want to overhit this, you should be fine. Moving on to hole number 3, and this one took me a minute of attempts. I found that the angle to play up this hill is better if you come just off the side wall first before going into that angled block. This is a bit of a risky one to go for because you've got the problem with the ball missing the hole and coming back down the ramp. So in terms of risk and reward, maybe not worth going for it, but you still would like to get up there in one shot. On now to hole number 4. This is pretty straightforward. Well, it is completely straightforward. This one I got on the very first try. It is just about timing. So wait for the first suitcase to be raised up, and at that point you should have plenty of time to hit your straight putt in. On now to hole number 5. This is another that took me a whole minute of attempts. This is actually much harder to get in the hole than it looks. The natural dropping angle from that top ledge doesn't quite fall into the hole. I actually achieved this by, I don't know if you call it a lucky bounce, but it comes down off that top ledge, hits the divider, off the back wall and into the cup. Simple. Hole number 6 took slightly less time at 45 seconds of attempts, but the line that you're taking here is relatively risk-free and it's going to land you somewhere near the hole, so it's worth a go. Don't overhit it because you'll chip up too high, but you want to play tight to the coal pile, over to that angle, a small chip off the coal and into the cup. Maybe easier said than done. Okay, on to number 7. This one only took me 4 tries. The key with this one is to minimise the risk, and I find that it's better to play a bounce off the back wall and towards that corner. That way, if the ball does get stuck, you're close to the pipe that you want to go through and you're not trying to play dead weight. Once you get it into the pipe, it should be a guaranteed hole-in-one from there. Hole number 8 is a nice neat little shot through this gap on the left hand side. There's not too much space in that gap, so providing you hit it fairly clean in the middle, you should be close to, or hopefully in the hole. If you feel confident that you can hit that gap, it's well worth the risk, and just a nice comfortable pace should take it in. On now to hole number 9, which is one of my favourite holes in the whole game for its simplicity. This one took me just 25 seconds of attempts. It is fairly straightforward, though I find it best to play it slightly off centre, as these little bounces on the way up will correct it. What you don't want to do with this one, although there's not too much risk to it, is underhit. You really should be looking to overhit where possible, but if you get your weight just right and you keep a good line, you should be in the cup for 1. On now to hole number 10, which took 45 seconds of attempts. This is a hole very similar to one of those on the original tourist trap. Again, underhitting is the real sin here, so make sure you're straight, but more importantly, make sure you hit it with enough pace. Obviously, you want to be fairly dead weight to be comfortable going into the cup, but if you prefer it, you can go off the back wall. There's just a lot more risk with this one coming past the cup and back down the slope. On to hole 11, this one probably took me the most time out of all of them at 5.5 minutes. There were a few routes that were worth trying with this one, but I found this crazy angled path was the most satisfying because it was fairly consistent to get it close to the hole, so that tells you it's not really a fluke. You want to hit around about there in line with the first suitcase, and that should send it round all these fancy angles, and if you're lucky it will drop. On to hole number 12, another fairly straightforward hole. This one only took about 5 tries in about 20 seconds. Keep the ball straight, get your timing right, and the slopes should do the rest. I find you want to give it a bit more pace than you think you need to. That will also help with the timing because you don't need to think too long about where the ball's going to be rolling. On to hole number 13, and this one I learnt on the release day from a community hole-in-one that you'll see at the very end. This took 1 minute and 10 seconds of tries, and I prefer this angle, which is going fairly straight down to this corner, catching a couple of bounces round what looks like a curve, but it's actually a couple of clean-cut angles, and over dead weight to the hole. Your contact point is taking a couple of bounces, as you can see there, and the spin should correct as long as your weight is not too strong, and send it in. Quite a fine line to go for, so if you're not confident with that putting, I would recommend going over to the left-hand side instead. Hole number 14, and the brilliance of this one is that it is slightly off-centre. This took 1 minute of tries. It's the combination of the fact that you really do need to hit this harder than you think. Definitely don't want to be under-hitting this one, and then of course as the ball starts to slow, that angle gets dragged. So if you're not confident with playing this one dead weight, I would recommend going to the back wall. On now to hole number 15, and this one took me only 3 tries to get. It is a fairly straight hole to play, but I find playing it slightly off to the right, aiming for that pole in the distance beyond the hole, is the best way to go. As you drop down the ledges, the ball moves over to the left very slightly, and this way, if you do happen to miss to the right, you've got a safety bounce back to stop you from going out of bounds. Hole number 16 is a really beautiful one to hit. If you want to give yourself more angle, you can play off the wall to the right hand side, but just to prove it's possible, playing very tight to that first obstacle, riding right up to the top of the ramp, and then in off this back wall gives you a really satisfying hole-in-one. A great one to hit, quite high in terms of risk, but the reward, what fun. On to our penultimate hole, number 17. There are lots of ways of hitting this one, which I will show at the end of the video. But for now, I'm going to show you my favourite route, and that is going just to the left of this triangle of balls, hitting the second one from the start, sends it over towards the pool cue, a little jump, and into the pocket. Anytime you hit a pocket on this table, it is a guaranteed drop into the cup. So your line is just there, and with a medium weight, it hits the pool cue, jumps over towards the pocket, reasonably forgiving, and into the hole. So finally onto hole number 18. This one took around about 4 minutes to get the hole in one. It's quite easy to get the ball down to the cup, as you'll see, but getting it to actually drop is the difficult or lucky part. For this, I find you want to be aiming just left of straight from the tee, and give it a good weight so you hit the first steel part and jump up into the window panes. When you're up on those windows, you don't often get any bounce backs, so you should be safe to clear that middle part, and over you'll go towards the cup area. If you get all that and get a lucky bounce, you've got a chance that it might drop. If not, it's a fairly safe 2, so the critical part here is the very first shot. Anyway, that's all 18 of the holes hole-in-one. Here is a community hole-in-one that I captured on release date, and now, just to flex, here are all the other ways that you can hit hole number 17. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found a couple of useful lines. This took me 19 minutes to get all of them, so there's your challenge. Please set yourself a stopwatch, see how long it takes you to get all 18 hole-in-one. If you have found this helpful, please do like the video. If you've got any different routes to suggest, any criticism, any observations, please do drop me a comment down below. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel. We're getting very close to 10,000 subscribers, which is just fantastic. So thank you so much for your support. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video again, and I look forward to seeing you out on the course.